share with us the knowledge on dermatology. Thank you.
And I'll control it here, from here. Oh, is this mine, is it? Hello? Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm delighted to be here. This is my second visit. I came here some, is it 15 years ago? Mrs. Wee Gyok Hua, where are you? Yes, right, right. And I think it has changed quite a bit, this building, and I'm very glad to see so many of you here on a Thursday evening. And also to meet some friends. Back there, right. Sometimes we take things for granted, and it's good sometimes to understand the history of, let's say, mindfulness meditation in this part of the world. It started off very slowly, right? And it picked up faster the last few years, mainly because of the research from the university. So now many schools, hospitals are accepting and introducing mindfulness practice because of the research. But then you ask yourself, how does it all begin? In fact, it started in a very humble way in a coffee house in NUS between the late Mr. Wee Sin To and myself. There's a coffee chat, right? And this is how often in the university research ideas are triggered. And very seldom are research ideas triggered because the president wants to assemble a team. Like in 1942, in America, the American president assembled a big team of physicists at Los Alamos, a big team of about 20 people to build the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project. They all came together to build a bomb to destroy people, right? But mindfulness came on in a very quiet way. I was invited for coffee by Mr. Wee Sin To, and second time met him. I've never met him before, and 2 weeks before, he had a friend who was depressed and suicidal. And he rang up my clinic in NUH for an appointment. The nurse told him, next appointment is 3 months. He said, wow, my friend is depressed and suicidal. So he rang up the NUS president, Professor Tan Chua Chuan. It is ridiculous, So Chua Chuan rang me and said, how? I said, so many patients, it's all chock-a-block down there. So, okay, since it's your friend, I'll see your friend during lunchtime on the same day. Oh, wow, same day, can. So I said, you come during my lunchtime, I'll see you. So he came about 12:30. But then he waited for 1 hour because the patient went on and on. Then I was quite, because I see from the back, he was just right at the back there, and he was wandering up and down very impatiently, wearing his white shirt, and he wear a beige pants. So I know I just signaled to him, not ready yet, the patient is still inside there. And towards the end, when he came down, he saw his friend for 1 hour, and then he gives some medicine, psychological therapy, and after 2 weeks, this friend improved, all right? So he was very happy. Then he said, can I thank you and come for coffee? And I had a coffee or chat with him. And then he told me about he read a book I wrote, and he told me that I'm very interested in what people are doing because he was into mindfulness meditation. It might help you people and your patients. I said, hold on. You cannot introduce it to patients, I said, why not you try it out with my medical students first? So I said, okay. I said, next week I'm taking the medical students, the 4th year medical students, a lecture on stress management. Would you like to take half? And I take half. Okay, all right. So half an hour, then I stopped. I said, well, I told the students, we have about 300 students, Mr. Wee Sin To will teach you some methods of relaxation. So he went on, and he told me that he was so fed up with them. The students were not listening to him. They're all lying down, all that. What kind of students here? So yeah, the world has changed now. I don't know about your time. I'm sure when Heok was a student in university, people are well attired, They wear shirts, pants, wear shoes to lecture hall. Now the medical students wear shorts, t-shirts, it's just nonsense. Singlets even, sandals. During my time as a medical student 50 years ago, you wear sandals, the dean might chase you away, Now they wear sandals. The world has changed. I don't your time. So I'm very happy. And then, but somehow the news spread around. Then the president rang me, hey, Dr. Kwai, I hear that you're introducing mindfulness meditation to the medical school. I said, yes. You can't do that, It's religion, it's Buddhism. I said, okay. And by the way, where is the evidence? So there are two ways. If someone disagrees with you, you can get very angry with them, can say, what do you mean, man? The President Tan Choa Chuan was my medical student many years ago. When I first came to work in Singapore in 1981, he was my final year medical student. Now I became the president, a powerful man. So I said, don't quarrel with them. My point is, okay, in that case, let us do a research. It's the only research done is by Jan Kabat-Zinn in New York. In New York, they do the study amongst the second-year psychology students, young people. So that we're going to do something for seniors. Because 2 months ago, I was invited to give a lecture at Harvard, and I told the people in Harvard that it is possible to prevent dementia. He said, how? I said, well, from the data we have in NUH. In NUH, I started a memory clinic. We have massive data. When I was doing the research in England, in a place at Cambridge, I asked the professor at Cambridge, if I diagnose someone with dementia, how long would a person live? The professor told me 5 years. Wow. But in NUH, the memory clinic, the people live for 12 years. Oh, so it's a big difference. And with a lot of data. So I told the people in Harvard that, in Boston, that there's a link between dementia and hypertension and diabetes. Oh, the professor said, where is the evidence? I said, well, the evidence in NUH is very small. We only have about 1,000, But now is overwhelming now, big data, or 10,000 is found that definitely. So in any kind of studies and research, it's the impression we have may be something very, very important. So then after that, I came back to Singapore. I said, let us start a program because there is no cure for dementia. All right. Jason asked me about a drug for treatment, or there is no cure because dementia is not like COVID-19. COVID-19 is a virus. The virus attacks, you kill out the virus, the person recovers. That's like mosquito malaria. You kill the bacteria, then you survive. But dementia is due to many causes. You cannot have one particular gene. I told the Americans it's not due to one particular gene. There are so many genes involved. So when we came back to Singapore, we thought we should do something on dementia prevention. So I'll talk to you about that later on. So I'm just saying that lots of ideas, even a casual chat, even have a nice vegetarian dinner with Heok Hwa earlier on. A lot of ideas come about getting this mindfulness practice into a book and how we can move on the ideas. So I will talk to you now. Are we there? Something about the good news first. When I tell people I'm doing a talk on aging, I talk to my friends anyway. They say, oh, this is very, very bleak. You often hear the bad news about aging. Old people are a burden to society. Can you imagine that? Old people are a burden. But the old people, when they're young, like this gentleman here, he is very important for the country, isn't it? He works hard for the country. But one day he will grow old. When you're 50 years from now, then you say you're no relevant to us. You're a burden. Then it's bad, isn't it? So the people must respect people. You cannot work all the time. During our youth, as I mentioned to a friend of mine, even this morning, that when I invited to, after the research was over, I was invited to Cambridge to give a lecture at Cambridge. And in the evening, we were invited for dinner at Fitzwilliam College. Fitzwilliam College in Cambridge. Anyone have been to Cambridge? It's a very nice small town. I like it because like my hometown in Malaysia. Anyone know where is Batu Pahat? Oh, good. Yeah, better than my medical students from RI boys, you know. So I asked them, where is Batu Pahat? He said, is it near Penang? I said, these are the top students in the country. Yeah. Then they told me, you know what, Prof, no use studying geography. I said, why? Cannot score distinction. He said, you study mathematics, 1 + 1 is 2 full marks. Geography, ask you to describe volcano, out of 10, give you 7 marks. Anyway, when I was over at Cambridge, at Fitzwilliam College, we were having dinner together. That's where Lee Kuan Yew studied law. You know? And the professor asked me, do you think the success of the country is because of one man? You know, right? So I told him it's not because of one man, it's because of the leaders and the people. All right? So all of us involved, you know, all right? So similarly in the research that we do, it's not just one person, but a team, people come together, right? A big team of people come together. So the good news also is that the success of the country is not just one man, but all of us involved, you know. And the first good news is that the life expectancy, can you see there, is 84 for women and 80 for men, right? Now this is better than North America 79, England about 80, you know, right? So we are much better than all these countries. So in a way, we must be very proud, isn't it, that we've done well. But unfortunately, we still always ask the Americans, the British, to teach us how to age well. So it's a paradox, isn't it? You know, it's opposite, you know, right? Right? So it must be. Then I was talking to some university professors recently. They said, well, Singaporeans, colonial mentality, you know, we still think the British are cleverer than us. Is it true? No, we should be proud and say we can do things our own way. Right? Okay. Then the second one was we can add years to life, you know, add years of healthy life. So even if we have dementia, we can do many things to prevent you from declining fast enough. We can prolong, you know. That's why I say in Cambridge, they say it's 5 years. In Singapore, I'll tell you later on, it's about 12 years. You know, if you do many things to your brain, like you're listening to me now, and make sure you listen attentively, your brain cells will grow, all right? A process called neuroplasticity, right? And I think that the good news in Singapore is this is the first place in Asia where there's a program for dementia prevention. Okay, all right, okay. So it's wonderful that we have this. But there are some challenges with the rising tide of dementia. The government says that for people above 60 years old, quite a number here, 10%, if there are 100 of you here, 10 of you will have dementia. Then, all right, that's a big number. You know? And also the demand on health services, we don't have enough of doctors. It's very difficult to get doctors to be trained in geriatrics, you know, or even psychiatry. Most of my students want to do surgery, you can make more money. Yeah, oh, geriatric, not much money, you know, involved. You know, see a patient, psychiatry, so you see a patient for 1 hour. The surgeons can operate in 1 hour and charge you $10,000. You know, psychiatry you can't. You know. So most people are not very keen on that. And also the cost is going to be going up and up. Okay, the first, the study of dementia started when we were part of the World Health Study about 35 years ago, a long time ago. At that time, nobody is interested, you know, but it's very important data. If you tell people the data, then the government can plan, right? Anyone know this, what street is that? See in your back. What street is that? It's done in Chinatown. Huh? It's quite near Smith Street. It's called Pagoda Street. So you see, the whole street is changed now. You go down there now, everything is so spruced up. Those days it was a bit run down, dirty, smelly. Now spruced up. You know. And most of them are taken over by our Chinese friends now. so, so all the food and all the change. But that's where the research was done. It's already been published. And now this is a very important graph. You see, the graph is divided into 3 parts. Can you see up here? Oh, the pointer is not working. So you all can look over here. There are 3 parts: mild, moderate, severe. Can you see that? Mild, moderate, severe. So the mild is about 6 years. 6 years. Moderate is moderate from here to here, about 3 years. And then severe, about 3 years. So if you have dementia, the first phase of a very mild phase, in which you're a bit more forgetful, misplace things, and all that, it lasts about 6 years, So this is the phase when if you do many things, there'll be a rejuvenation, more cells will come up, The moderate phase is a bit more difficult. It's what you see in the newspaper about old person found wandering the street and all that, or old person a bit angry, abusive. It's the moderate phase, And sometimes this phase, they'll complain, they're forgetful, then they'll lose the money, then they'll complain that someone has stolen their money. So all this phase can be very, very disturbing. Yeah? And the last phase is when they're very severe, they'll lie in bed all the time. Right? So what we want to do, if we can, is to, there's a phase above it all. You see the red one above it, the pre-dementia phase. All right? So some people are a bit forgetful. They don't have dementia, the pre-dementia phase. You can do many things, then you find that there's good progress. So the thrust of the research is on the pre-dementia phase. Once you cross into the dementia, it's a bit more difficult. But even on dementia, it's a mild phase, many things you can do. Okay? Are you into it? So that's part of the good news now. Or else people think, oh, dementia, you're finished. It's not finished. Not finished. Yeah. In fact, I saw a doctor last week on dementia, and is he going to drive? I said, oh dear, why are you going to drive? I'm just driving my house to cold storage and back every day. I trying to avoid. So I told the wife that if he finished off that a year for renewal, I'm going to write down that he cannot drive anymore. Doctor must certify, isn't it? Yeah, right. So, okay, so now if you look at this is the special kind of X-ray called a PET scan. Anyone know what's a PET scan? All right. The people at the back seem to be nodding their head more than the front. What is a PET scan? The lady is nodding the head. Anyone? You can tell us? It's a special kind of X-ray to see which part of the brain is working very fast. It's called positron emission tomography. Very big word. Very expensive. More than $1,000. All right. So it's supposed to see which part of the brain. So you see the part of the brain that is red is the brain that is working very hard. All right. Okay, so you see that the top is your front, the red, the one bottom is your back. So why is the back red? Anyone will tell me? Why is the back red? Why is the back of your head working so hard? Well, not quite right, although it's quite near the spinal cord, you agree, but it's not that. What's that? Fish. Speech, quite near the speech. Anyone, one last guess? Here you can guess now, right? Memory, okay. Yeah, quite near to memory, yeah. Actually, all of you are better than my medical student. Medical student all dumb, asking a student to speak is like squeezing blood from stone. So the students say, hey, Prof, I heard you were a tutor at Harvard and Oxford. Yeah, I was a tutor. Are they very clever? I say, in terms of intellect, our students are the same as the people in Harvard and Oxford. The only difference is the Oxford boys and girls and Harvard, Oxford boys, they ask all kinds of questions. They're not afraid. I was so embarrassed, afraid. Are you working? Are you a student? Working, all right. Any student here? No student. Students are frightened here. So you see the back here is working hard, because you're all looking at me. the eye is only a glass, you know. The light enters the eye and hits the back. My image, as you're seeing me now, is at the back of your head. All right. The eye is there's nothing, it's only a glass. It pierces through, and the light, and my image, you're seeing me, is at the back of the head. That's why it's red. All right. All right. If I take a brain scan of your head now, and it is green, that means you are not looking at me, like you're sleeping like that, but sleeping really. So now, no, right. So the second one is a patient with dementia on the right side. You see that although you have a dementia, there are still some red areas in it, which is a very important finding. So I was part of the World Health team. I tell them this is very important. You know, it doesn't mean that you have dementia. That means the definition for dementia at one time was a global deterioration of brain functioning. So I told the World Health people that, look here, it's not global. You can still, even though you have mild or moderate dementia, you can stimulate the brain cells again, and work on those areas. Okay, so it's a very important finding to help many people. Okay, so this is the study I mentioned to you about the dementia prevention, where mindfulness is being used. Now, if some of you are in, I don't know how many people here, are you involved in some research? You're nodding all the time, is it? Yeah, one lady at the back. In the world, there's a very friendly competition of all the scientists. Yeah, just like when you saw the film Oppenheimer, isn't it? The German scientists and American scientists were competing to build the atomic bomb. Yeah. So in the world, there are three big groups doing research on dementia prevention. The Singapore study here, the one in Paris, and one more in Finland. So we have a discussion with this man down there, Professor Goh Lee Gan. It was also the discussion done in the pantry of NUH. So we must think of something that is better than what they do in Paris. You know. So I told him that I talked to a friend called Wee Sin To. He told me about the mindfulness practice. You know, why not we introduce mindfulness? You know, then he'd be skeptical. Are you sure you can do? Will people laugh at us? You know. So don't worry, because from what he told me, I think mindfulness helps you in terms of your concentration. So when you say that you remember something, the whole circuitry of memory begins with concentration first. Okay, you must concentrate, right? And then you store it in your brain. You agree? And then you take it out, you retrieve. This whole circuit is called memory. Very simple, isn't it? All right. So I think mindfulness, I told him, could help in terms of concentration. Right? The concentration is okay, then the person can store. Right? Okay? If the concentration is off, you cannot. You know. So here, after a long chat with Professor Goh Lee Gan, said, okay, let's try it here. Right? Let's try and see how things are. We started the memory clinic. The memory clinic in NUH is meant for people who are 60 years and above, or 65. We even had medical students coming to my clinic and say, oh, Prof, I have memory problem. I say, what's the matter with you? These are old people coming, oh, right, I do. Anyone know what's the cause of memory problem of the final year medical student in Singapore? Anyone knows? Lack of sleep, that's right. Your lack of sleep, you go to study to 3 o'clock in the morning, then at 5 o'clock they get up again to study. There's no concentration really. The brain is tired and you cannot concentrate, you know. All right? So the treatment is go and sleep, you know, sleep, that's all. No, that's all. And then they're okay. So I told Professor Goh that it may be a good start, you know. So a lot of discussion, but I said, anyway, the president says no research done, why not we try it? So that's the beginning, right? So I'm very glad, because later on, when I presented the data in Europe, in the World Congress, everyone was excited to say, hey, there's something spiritual in your program, which none of them have. The people in Paris, the people in Finland, there's nothing, it's just education, exercise. Singapore one is a bit different. Besides that, we also art, but the mindfulness one, that attracts a lot of attention around the world. Okay, so that is Professor Goh, the 5-year study. If some of you in the research, you don't realize that it is at the Jurong point. When we asked for some funding from the government, there's no money. They said, this thing, what's all this dementia? No problem. No, Singapore has, in fact, someone told me there are very few dementia patients in Singapore. In fact, there's so many. They're all misdiagnosed, right? Okay. And so we started out a fire program where Jurong Point, we're very fortunate, the Lee Kim Ta family. The HDB flats are built by the Lee Kim Ta family, and they are very nice. They give us a space down there and gave us about $1 million to us to hire nurses. People like Heok Hua come as a volunteer. Okay, but you need to get the nurses to go to the home. What we did was, around Jurong Point, there are 50 blocks of flat. To get the research done, to do it well, to publish it in the top journal of the world called the Lancet down there, the Lancet. It must be done in a very methodical way. So the nurse will go to every block, knock on the door. Anyone at 60 years old, welcome the person to the Jurong Point mall. There's a space there. We call it Training and Research Academy. Actually, it's a very small place now. We make it a very big name because we wanted Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam to come. You say, where's the place? The Training and Research Academy. Wow, it came in. Wow, so small. You see, so small. And never mind. MP is MP at Jurong at the time. He came very happy. Launched by Mr. Tharman. He's now the president, right? So that's where it was done. And so we thought we should have also 5 things down there. First, of health education. So we tell people about what is hypertension, what is diabetes. We reckon that if you understand all this condition, you teach you about diet, all this, we can teach you. It's very didactic, it's trained. Then after they finish the training, about 15 minutes, the second part we divided into 4 groups. One group will be Tai Chi. We give them a choice. You do Tai Chi, or you can do art, music, mindfulness practice. Now, beginning, people say, well, let's try the American style of mindfulness practice. So I asked Mr. Wee Sinto that, why don't you do something, why you keep on following the Americans? Do something, let's try it out and write it. I think together with the wife, they sit down and think about what is more appropriate, right? Because beginning when Mr. Wee tried the American style as medical student, it's so difficult, people are fed up, too difficult for them to make it very simple, that people can follow, all right? Okay, so I'll talk to you about later on that. So there are 4 modalities. Later on, a gardening king and dog also. So we follow them up, what happened to these people. And we found that the group that improved the fastest in terms of depression and anxiety was the group that deals with music. And then mindfulness and art all came along by the 3rd or 4th month. All right, so this is a non-drug approach. You can bring down, improve depression, anxiety, a non-drug approach. It's very important, all right? Because besides the dementia, we know that, in fact, I told the Minister of Health, a bigger problem in Singapore is not dementia, it's depression. And depression has a mortality, that is suicide. And every day in Singapore, someone is planning to kill himself. Because in Singapore, we have 450 suicides a year. But we don't know where is the person, who's going to kill himself. So this can be one method. You improve the depression, one method to help out. Now, more importantly, working in a university is quite fun because in the university, people disagree with you, the professors. So they said this study is not that scientific because you allow people to do what they want to do. Right? Some people want to do mindfulness, let them do. But I tell them that is what the world is all about, isn't it? You don't want to play golf, you don't play golf. But in the research, you can no choice. You put your name into the computer box, and if it turns out that you must do art therapy, you must do art. This is called a randomized control. Yeah, you've done the research, from your pharma company. Yeah, you would do a drug trial for example, for headache. I'll give you a red pill, and the next person I give you what I call a placebo, a sugar pill, also red. See which one is important, if you're more effective. But this kind of study is very, very difficult. You can't tell a person don't exercise. You have to exercise. So anyway, so we did something for mindfulness. So for mindfulness, we asked Heok Hwa's husband, the late Mr. Wee Sinto, at that time, I think the best person to teach mindfulness. But then someone said, what about the control? So in any research, you must have one group. You put your name into the computer says, you go to group 1. Group 1 is mindfulness. You go to group 2. Group 2 is health education. All right? You don't do that, you cannot. Some people say, I want to try mindfulness. Cannot. The name, computer comes out, you must go to that site, you must follow it. All right? And then for the health education, we pick up Professor Goh. Professor Goh in the picture was a top teacher in NUS. The medical students say he's a very good teacher. Right? So he got the best teacher on both sides to train. So we found that, you see the first part of the brain, can you see from the back? The leaves from the back. The red dots are the people with the health education. So after 3 months, there are more dots, means the brain cells are being stirred up, But you also see that the health education, the lower half, there's also brain cells. This is the first study in the world done in old people, and it was published in the American Journal and also the American newspaper. That, hey, Singapore has done a study on mindfulness for old people. American study is only for young people, so this is a big study and stir up a lot of interest, even in Singapore here, and people are very interested now. It can be done because it shows. Together with that, we asked a psychologist to do a brain test to check on the memory, concentration, a big battery of tests to find out whether it improves. So very strong evidence. Now, any one of you have been through an MRI brain scanner? It's quite noisy, very tedious. So some people will be frightened. So we try not to give too much of this kind of tests because it's also very costly. Each test is about $1,000. And our donation came from the Kuan Yin Hu Cho Temple. They gave us $2 million for the study. But it's very, very expensive. All right. So this, besides the mindfulness, we took the blood of one of the people doing the mindfulness group and another, the control group. We wanted to measure what is called the telomeres. So you see these blue things are your chromosomes. The chromosome stores all your genes. Genes, the color of your hair, your height, all these are the genes. That's called the chromosome. The red part of the chromosome is called the telomeres. Now, as you grow older, the telomeres become shorter and shorter and shorter. For normal people, until just before you die, the telomeres ends up there, and the whole chromosome will break up, and the gene will spill into your cell, and then we perish. Now, we found that in the mindfulness study, the telomeres length goes longer and longer, same as for the education, But after the 3rd month, it came shorter again. Mainly because in the first 3 months, we asked them to do it weekly. They come to Jurong Point, we teach them to do it weekly. After that, we say, well, why not do it once a month? See how. So once a month, if you do mindfulness meditation once a month, not effective, isn't it? No? Not effective at all. So that, in fact, for most people, do it daily, right? It'll be wonderful. So in a way, it can be measured. These are measured in a laboratory that the telomeres length increases, right? It makes you younger in a way, Yeah. All right. So this is once again, this is the first study done in the world. In our intestine or in your gut, there are a lot of bacteria. There are good bacteria, there are bad bacteria. Bad bacteria cause you a fever, diarrhea. Good bacteria secretes chemicals in the brain that makes you less depressed, makes you less anxious. So we took the stool of the people and measured before and after. There's an improvement of the good bacteria for people with mindfulness. So this is very important finding here. So now we also, if some people ask, can we use mindfulness for people with what they call irritable bowel syndrome? Anyone heard of IBS? Or with IBS here in this room, very common. People have a lot of stress, tummy problem, a lot diarrhea. So it could be one of the way that people are trying out now. All right. So I move away from mindfulness practice for a while. I'm going for art therapy. But art therapy, before they start art therapy, part of the methodology is they do about 10 minutes of mindfulness practice. Right. We don't call it meditation because it frightens people, doing meditation. It's called mindfulness, mindful awareness practice, MAP. Right? You heard about that? The MAP, yeah, right. So even for when they're going for art therapy, they will have to do 10 minutes first before they go to art gallery. So it's calm the mind down. Yeah, okay. The art therapy study is very interesting because it was actually the idea of our ambassador at large, Professor Tommy Ko. You know Tommy Ko? We always write something in newspapers and all that. No? So Tommy Ko was then in charge of the art museum, and he rang me and said, "Do you want to do a study on dementia with using art? Because there's a study done in New York now, you know." And I happened to be in New York, and I said, okay, I'll just see what they're doing. And I found that in the New York study, it was done at a very famous museum called the Museum of Modern Art. Anyone have been to MoMA? Museum of Modern Art. That's where the paintings of the great Picasso down there, not Picasso, and also Vincent van Gogh, you know, sunflowers all down there. So they bring the elderly people, the New Yorkers, into down there with dementia, and measure before and after about 3 or 4 months. So I told Professor Tommy Ko, what I'm going to do is you have to do better than American. You cannot just follow what the Americans do. I said, we're going to use brain scan. Oh, the Americans said, wow, that's fantastic, man. The American study just asked them a question, are you feeling better today? So ours, we brain scan, all objective study. And also I told them, instead of using Picasso's painting, obviously it's wonderful, the original, but our old people in Singapore, why do we worry about Picasso? Do a painting like that. Anyone seen his painting in the National Gallery? Anyone have seen? Well, never seen. What's the name of this painting? Anyone guess? Huh? Yeah. The painting is called Apa Nama Awak. You all know that? You see, some of you, yeah, maybe you're not familiar with the Malay word. All right. Because these are painted in 1964. In 1964, Singapore was part of Malaysia. Do you know that? You all know. I asked my medical students, you know, whoa, these are the RI boys, the snobs. They said, are you sure, Prof, Malaysia, Singapore part of Malaysia? They don't know that. Yeah, that's embarrassing. You all laugh, but these students, to them, it's not important, you know. But very important to know where you are, isn't it? Our history, how we suddenly did. So at that time, when you're part of Malaysia, you must study Malay. I come from Malaysia also. If you don't pass Malay, you cannot get into university. Finish. I got a few friends who scored straight A's, but Malay failed out. Finish. So that group of people are doing that time. They give you tuition. So that the teacher down there on the left, is it teaching this boy is a student. Can you see from the back? Yeah, can. Oh, there's the TV down there. How wonderful! So you see that, and you see the way they dress. You know, it's the 60s. So when we showed this to the old people at Jurong, they know it's the 60s. You know? And they can even identify it. The lady who comes, you see that those days people attend tuition. Lady, they wear a nice cheongsam, didn't it? Yeah. And the students wear shirt, proper attire and all that. That's what it is, 60s. But now things are terrible, you know. Right. So for that study, before that, we also do about 10 minutes of mindfulness mindful practice before they do the art therapy. Change it. First study once again on art therapy using a brain scan. Isn't it wonderful? So I tell my friends in NUS, whatever they have in New York or London, you have it here in Singapore. What we need is new ideas. Just like when Mr. Wee Sin To told me of mindfulness, that's a new idea, right? But now now we take it for granted. Okay, mindfulness, but it took a long time to think through, get through all the difficult people who are always that is impossible, you know, right? But this can be done, all right? All right, and so this one is about music, choral singing, choir singing. Once again, the choir singing attracted a lot of crowd. And before they start the choir singing, the lady in red on the right side, Professor Maureen Sarkok, you know, there'll be someone to teach them also. For 10 minutes, she told me to do my mindfulness practice before they started singing, calm themselves down. Many of the old people in Jurong, they work in the factories, you know. They say they never, I mean, someone to teach them to sing, but there was somebody, what's the name of it? Darius Lim, Singapore. He conducts it at Carnegie Hall in New York, you know, very well-known man. He teaches them how to sing together. So they learn new things, new songs. So the brain began to work. And they enjoy going to the university to learn. Because a studio as big as this. And they told me that we work in the factories, we've never been to NUS, you know, or we've never been to all these places. So they're so happy, you know, right? And so this study also attracted a lot of attention. And it helps them. And the most important finding is not just the brain scan study. The most important finding is that the people begin to know each other better. Before they live in block 35 in Jurong, they know that fellow down there is Mr. Tan, whatever it is. But now after singing together, they begin to know each other. They begin to care for one another. So those who are young, old, 65 to 74, called young, old. 75 and above are called old. The young, old begin to take care of the sense of compassion. So this sense of compassion could be because of being together, or could also because of the mindfulness practice. That mindfulness helps you a sense of care and compassion. So in the 5-year outcome study, which is the most important, it's the first study done in the world. So you've forgotten what I told you, never mind. Remember these figures, right? See, so depression in the country today is about 9%. This figure from our study cut it down to just half, 4.5. And dementia, 10%. 10%, government says 10%. In Singapore today, for people above 60 years old, there are about 1 million. 10% means 100,000. So think about it. 100,000 people with dementia today in Singapore. You know. But if you introduce this program on dementia prevention, you can bring it down to 3%. 3% means just 30,000, isn't it? That means you save or you prevent 70%, right? 70,000 people. But sometimes we talk to people in government, 70,000, they're okay. But we must tell them in terms of the cost. Yeah. You tell them the cost, then they wake up and say, oh, that's important. All right. So we know that the cost of caring for someone with dementia, the mild phase is about $280 per month, all right? Because you got to pay doctor's fees, medication fees. But when you are having moderate dementia, you're running around restless, you got to hire a helper. And it's a helper cost that shoots up to 100 or 1,250, all right? And then when you are severe, it goes down, all right? Some people have to hire 2 helpers. I look after a doctor, he has to have 3 helpers because he has the wife, they don't have any children. So he said the doctor needs 12-hour shift and 1 more to do the cooking. So they need 3. Go have to write a letter to MOM, you know, to get permission to hire 3. So we find out now that was so in the year 2016, because of inflation, it gone up, you know, all right? So the cost is quite high, you know, a month you got to pay 1,300, you know. But this minus the stress of caring. There's a cost, you know. You're a caregiver, it's very stressful. The caregivers cannot sleep, they're upset, worried, sometimes become sick, you know. Sometimes they take MC and various things. These are costs. This is called indirect costs. So you see the number of cases going up, like the tsunami over the years, right? And this is the cost now, is it? High cost benefits. So we know that MH 10,000, in our studies, it's 3,000. Total cost per patient is about $5,500. So for 70,000 people, who is very good at maths here? How's your maths? Want to calculate for us? It's done together with Professor Houston Hua, the top-notch economist from NTU. You know. Anyone knows him? Houston Hua, a Penang chap. How many? About 850 million, isn't it? That's right, $875 million. So when the Minister of Health heard about it, can you come for join us for tea and explain to us all this thing. So you tell them that if you do this study, you will save the government, or save the family, $875 million. That's phenomenal, isn't it? But then again, we have not factored in the indirect costs from the caregivers. So now we have expanded to many other centers in Eunos. The first one is called the Kong Ming San Pokasi. Anyone from Kong Ming San besides Giok Hua? They've done a very good work job down there, Kong Ming San group. There's also in Aokang. This is called what I call translational research. The research was done at Jurong, and now we translate it to the other parts of the island, which is most important. Research cannot be just in the laboratory. It must impact people's life. All right. For example, about 100 years ago, Alexander Fleming. Anyone knows what did Fleming discover? That's right. Wow, not good. You have chairman, very good. Penicillin in a laboratory of St. Mary's Hospital in London. Just finished by itself, but they converted it into a drug and sent it around the world. That's called translational research. What they've done benefits other people. Okay. So this study is this way. Now, people in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, also in China are very keen on this study, right? Because it saves a lot. I'll mention a little bit of the rainforest because part of the rainforest is also we trying, Giok Hua is the main teacher, teach people how to walk mindfully to the rainforest. Sometimes you just walk through the rainforest. You drive along the roads, you don't know the name of the trees, isn't it? So what we did was we had a group of people, some doctors, some bankers, members of parliament, to walk through the rainforest or botanic gardens and find out what happened to them after 12 weeks. Once a week on a Saturday morning. And we found that besides the improvement of physical and mental health, they begin to care for one another. And it occurred after the pandemic. Quite a few people in this group are widows and widowers, and their friends will ring up, can I buy for you groceries? Can I take the medicine for you? So the sense of care. And most important is that after they walk to the rainforest, we also ask the scientists to follow them. So they, that tree, the musu tree. What's the other tree? The tree is senna. Senna tree is good for constipation. So they teach them. Then they began to love the rainforest. So they donated about $30,000 to NParks to plant more trees. Right. Isn't it wonderful? They began to care for the rainforest. They love the rainforest. So this study was presented in the World Congress. And in the World Congress, the chairman was the professor from Brazil. He said, this is the most important study of all the Congress papers, because he said in Brazil, the Amazon rainforest is about 30,000 times the size of Singapore, and 1/3 has been burned down. One of the causes of the global warming. The past few weeks, the past few days, been very, very hot. One of the causes is the destruction of the rainforest. So if people follow this stuff of studies, begin to love the rainforest, they don't want to destroy it, isn't it? Yeah? So something interesting. So it's our contribution to a prevention of global warming, all right, and the health of the planet. So I helped the NParks a lot, actually, when I finished my A level, I want to do botany. My mother said, "What botany?" It said, my house in Malaysia, our garden is quite big, and he said, "You look at our gardener. He doesn't go to the university. He can plant better than you." He said, "One of my sons must do medicine." My goodness! And because when my mother's brother was a doctor in Hong Kong, and then he was 18 years old, she wanted to do medicine. The father, my granddad in China said, "No, you get married." So she harbored in her heart to do medicine. So when it came to my turn, saying, "Oh, my brother is an economist." He said, "No, you want to do science, you must do medicine." And I really didn't enjoy my 5 years in medicine. But now I enjoy it because I work with NParks. Right. And after I finished off, they told me, can you plant a tree? I told this to Giok Hua. And so they thought I'll ask a durian tree. I said, no. I said, I want a nutmeg tree. Right. So the CEO asked me, why you want a nutmeg tree? Have you all seen a nutmeg tree, all of you? Penang, anyone from Penang? Penang people have seen. No Penang people here. What's happened? So they asked me, why a nutmeg tree? So I said, the fact that we are speaking English today is because of nutmeg tree. Because 500 years ago, there was also a pandemic in Europe called the Black Death. Anyone heard of that? Due to the bubonic plague, the rats, causing the fleas. And there was no cure. And someone said, the cure is from the juice of the nutmeg. And that's why the Portuguese came down first. The Portuguese sailed from Portugal. Those days, there was no Suez Canal. They rounded Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, and they sailed towards India. And then another Portuguese called Vasco da Gama, he sailed across the Bay of Bengal, his Armada, and he conquered Malacca. Anyone know the date? 1511, the conquest of Malacca. The first thing he did after the conquest of Malacca was to send two ships to go look for the Moluccas Island, where the nutmeg was grown. All right. Well, of course, it wasn't the cure for all that. And after the Portuguese, the Dutch came here. And then the English came here, although, all right. So this is the story of the nutmeg. And so I thought I want a nutmeg tree to grow it, to let people know the history of why we are speaking English today. So I think I've said, so this book has been, these are people, they planted the trees, and there's a book written. Anyone have read this book? No one? Oh, that's bad. No, not in your library here. Yeah, this book has got a commentary in the New York Times. The commentary is a must-read book. Yeah, it's about how to love our rainforests, and for health and for longevity. Yeah, all right. You love the rainforest. I'm sure that all of you in your Buddhist teaching about caring and all that inside there. Okay, I've come to the end of it, and to thank everybody. Mr. Wee Sinto is up there. Has anyone read this other book I wrote? The Colors of Aging? No one also. Oh, this is bad, when this book was reviewed in the British Journal, whenever you write a book, we send it to England. They're still very powerful. They decide. So the British Journal, the editor sent to a professor, he wrote, and he said, opening line, this book should be read by Bill Gates. Why Bill Gates? Because just before the pandemic, Bill Gates told the world he will give $100 million to whoever can find a drug for the prevention of dementia. But someone said one of his family members has dementia, so he's a bit frightened. Right? Is there a drug? So the reviewer said, you can never find a drug to prevent dementia. You should read this book from Singapore. Right? So now the book sale is quite good in England, but in Singapore, not very good. I know Singaporeans, they don't read. So this is what it is all about. But I want to just impress upon all of you that the idea of mindfulness is very much linked to Buddhism. And we take the essence of it, something of great value in people's life, and not only just for treatment, but also for well-being and mental well-being. All right? And I hope, do you all practice? Anyone practice mindfulness here? Besides a few of them, good. The people at the back are more active. The people at the front, what happened? Don't do anything. So I think it'd be wonderful. It's a non-drug approach. That's what the World Health is very interested in. The non-drug, because nowadays we give drugs a lot of side effects. He was asking me about new drugs for dementia. So much of side effects. There's one that causes the infection of the brain, and side effects terrible. You give a drug for dementia, it causes infection of the brain. So the non-drug approach, mindfulness, help people out, And so I'm going to stop and ask. You can ask me any questions you want. If I don't know, I'll ask Heok Hwa to answer for me.
The floor is open for questions. Anybody, please?
I'd be interested to know if you could explain a bit more how, if there is any connection between dementia and depression, or well, what you call clinical depression.
Okay. So the question is there a link between depression and dementia? Excellent. So in our data in NUH, those people who have depression, especially depression of late onset, that means after 60 years old, they are more prone, it's a risk factor for dementia. Some ask why? Well, because the late onset depression often is linked to a poor blood supply to the brain, right? So the blood supply to the brain, it affects the part of the brain. We have two parts of the brain. One is called the gray matter, the first top part. Below the gray matter is called the white matter. The white matter is sometimes we store certain part of chemicals that's linked to depression. So if you keep if the blood supply to these people are affected, later on it might affect the part of the brain that affects memory, right? So there's a link. But sometimes in people with depression, they also are not sleeping well. They become a bit more forgetful. So you got to make sure you understand, because depression is called pseudo dementia. So be careful, because I've referred patients who are the doctor will say, this patient is demented. Can you treat the patient? Then I find out when he comes to my clinic, sometimes I run a clinic in the afternoon. In depression, in the afternoon they improve, right? Their mood improve. There's what I call a diurnal variation of mood. It's worse in the morning, all right? Because the bad hormone called cortisol is high up in the morning. The evening it goes down. And then once the bad hormone goes down, the mood improves. It became more alert. All right. So I've seen many people be misdiagnosed as dementia. Actually, they have a depression. Right? Okay. But also, sometimes you don't take enough of vitamin B6 or 12. You also have depression. But B6 and 12, you don't take, if the vitamin are too low, you also have memory problems. So that's the link. Yeah. Be careful. Vitamin B6 or B6 like vegetables. B6 are called folate acid. Folate is linked to foliage. All right. And, take vegetables. Good for the brain also. Right?
So my understanding, what you just described, is it the lack of blood flow and oxygen to the brain cells that causes the deterioration?
That's right. So the brain cells die because the oxygen is cut off. So sometimes you're always worried when an old person go for general anesthesia, go for operation. One patient, after very alert, but a bit of block in the blood vessel, given general anesthesia for, I think, a fractured leg, whatever it is, After that, confused, because the oxygen supply is not constant during anesthesia, and memory goes down and down and down. Right? So one can be a bit more careful. I want to this point about the depression and the depression dementia. We often ask our old people, even young people, make sure you go for your dental checkup, right? Because the dental checkup, we don't have dental checkup, the bacteria in your mouth goes up to the blood, this big blood vessel here called a carotid artery, and then it blocks up the bacteria blocks up your artery, and then you have less blood supply to the brain. You're more prone to depression and dementia, right? So that's why the dentist now very active now. So do more things. Go and visit them once in 6 months and clear it up and all. Because many patients refer to me, the first thing I'll tell the family, can you please get on to my friend across the road, across the alley, there's a dental officer, and check on the teeth. And one case, they check and actually things are not moving well because the patient actually have cancer. They don't see it. People say, oh, you're old, no teeth, why you worry? Actually, a lot of problems, Our health, our dental health is very important.
I have another question for you. Since you said that one of the causes of dementia is the lack of oxygen to the brain, what if, let's say, we bring oxygen and blood to the brain through like maybe our traditional Chinese Qigong exercises? Would that be possible to mitigate maybe the effects of dementia?
Yeah. I think that the Qigong exercise research has been done. I've seen the literature, but it wasn't that solid. They didn't do. People want to do a randomized control study. Sometimes they select people. They become very, in a way, very prejudiced. The people who are well are selected for the study. So they got to do a randomized study. But there are a lot of studies that Qigong is quite helpful in terms of breathing. That's why part of the prevention is exercise. And some young people want to go to the gym. I say the gym is not good. The gym atmosphere is like the atmosphere in my clinic. Because a lot will come outside. Yeah. You want to go to the park, go to the trees, the oxygen is free, you know. The clinics, all, you know, all left by this space here, it's all enclosed. What we breathe, we go inside there, go to the aircon place, and it's cool and come back again. It goes in and out. But you go to the park and it's free, all right? It's free and it's wonderful, you know. That's why we spend a lot of money to help to bring up the parks and all that. Then people complain, oh, it's too warm, then too many mosquitoes. Singaporeans always complaining. I cannot understand that. It's so beautiful, our botanic garden is so beautiful, isn't it? Do you all agree? Yeah.
So there haven't been any studies done with Qigong and correlation. Okay. Yes.
Hi, good evening, sir. So I hear you that dementia and depression, they are relatively related. So how about patients who are diagnosed with like schizophrenic? And if it is so, is there anything that we can help to actually help them also in that aspect?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You all know what is schizophrenia? Yeah. Most of the patients in IMH are people with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia comes on the age about 20 years old. And for strange reasons, sometimes it runs in a family. That the person began to have strange voices disturbing them, thinking that neighbors are trying to harm them. It's a very sad illness. Strikes people at that age. You know, I've known even our medical students, you know, that age, it hits them hard. Right? But do they lead on to dementia? As you said, what we've done, one of the longest follow-up study of schizophrenia in the world is here in IMH or Woodbridge those days. And follow them up 20 years. And we find that after, for those who survive, you know, about a third of them do have poor memory. You know. Then the question is it because the medicine they take they cause the poor memory? A possibility. Second question is because often they are kept in the long stay ward of IMH, then there's no mental stimulation. You know. Then you come, therefore they've forgotten a lot of things then. So there are some areas we don't know about. But we know that if you those who are managed at home have better outcome. The family will remind them to take medicine, then the appointment. That's why I spoke at the World Congress. I said the outcome of schizophrenia in Singapore is better than America and better than England. I worked for many years in England. In England, if you have an illness, schizophrenia or alcohol problem, after discharge, I've got to ring up the social worker. Can you find a hostel for this person? The families won't look after them. And sometimes they come down from Scotland to where I was working in Oxford. Nobody in Oxford, they got relatives, stay in the hostel. What happened when you stay in the hospital? They miss their medicine, they miss their medication, they miss their appointment, they relapse. At home, the parents will remind you, don't forget your medicine, all right? The parents will give you food to take. People complain of home food. But you're thankful, I tell you, thankful of mother and the parents who cook all the food for you and remind you about appointments. So you're constantly managed well. So that's, but a lot of things we still don't know about schizophrenia. But I know that they look after well, they can improve. I look after some doctors who have schizophrenia. They are working, but I tell them they must be monitored. I could see them every 1 month or 2 months to make sure their medicine. And if anything goes wrong, I'll tell the partner to let us know. Because if you look after them well, you know the film called A Beautiful Mind. You all see that film? Won a Nobel Prize, isn't it? He was a brilliant man, mathematician. He had schizophrenia. You know, they're very bright people.
Question? Yes. Sure.
Hello, may I ask, how do you tell a person who, how do you tell the difference between the person who is degenerating, maybe from old age, from a mild dementia?
The question is, what's the difference between dementia and normal aging? Is that what it is? Yeah. Normal aging, all right. So in normal aging, for example, if you're normal aging, tomorrow morning your relatives ask you, where did you go last night? You say, well, I went to a place somewhere near the Geylang area and I met some people down there. Which place? I cannot remember, but I know it's somewhere around. I meet wonderful people here. They're such very charitable people. But if you have dementia, if tomorrow your relative asks you, say, I don't know where to go. I know. You cannot remember they've been here. So a typical thing we ask people with dementia is, what do you have for breakfast? I cannot remember. But it can tell you about Japanese occupation. The long-term memory is okay. The short-term is the one. The short-term memory is cut off. All right? But of course, for this, we must also run through a battery of tests. The X-rays, neuropsychological assessment, and you have to be careful. You're not too sure, because dementia is a very powerful diagnosis. You have dementia, you may not be able to sign your checks anymore or do anything. So we have to be very careful. And you want to do a will, it's impossible. Right? You've got to be very careful. Then I sometimes go to court. The families fight over money. Because the person signed the will when having dementia. They fight over. So I want to be very careful about the diagnosis. Diagnosis about any illness, it hangs around your neck the rest of your life. So I tell my doctors, be very careful. Even diagnosing depression, there's a stigma involved in it. Stigma of diagnosing schizophrenia. You got to be very, very careful. So in hospital, sometimes we are in a dilemma, bring up for discussion, and all the people come together and think about it. To protect the people and make sure give a good treatment for people. I once looked after a lady who was of all the people, a professor at Cambridge, a friend of mine. The daughter was working in Singapore here, and then pregnant and delivered, and then after delivery, postnatal depression. Only postnatal depression became very suicidal. Not only suicidal, they became very homicidal. Want to kill the baby, want to kill the husband. And then there's no family here. The family all in England. It was so difficult to manage her. Got to ring up my friends in Cambridge who was looking after her before, and then we give the medicine, not working well, still suicidal, want to kill me. I've got to ring up my sister. Whom shall we? England, Oxford, and Cambridge are all rivals. So can I ring up my friends in Oxford now? Okay, all right. So Oxford fellows came on board also, all through Zoom. Couldn't get through it. The patient was still, and the doctor, because under my care, you're worried, Every night, you say, what will happen tomorrow morning? So it's constant anxiety for myself, So doctoring is not that easy. Still not well. So because I worked in Harvard before, I said, let's get onto the Harvard people, So Harvard people, so 3 groups of people from Singapore got together. Eventually, she was well. When she was well, I told her father, better send her back back to England. And I was so glad when we went back to England. So people can come together to make an assessment or treatment. Okay.
Sorry, here.
Okay.
Just now you mentioned that the back of the brain here is for image processing, right? What about for blind people? Does that mean the brain here is not using?
Right. So for some of the blindness because of the nerves itself, from the eye to the back, and sometimes also because of the back. So sometimes people head injury, boxing or car crash. All right, they call it cortical blindness. The eyes are okay, but the back brain is smashed by the car. They are blind. All right. So some other blind people, maybe the part of the retina is damaged. Therefore, the light cannot get through. Okay?
So that means the brain here is not. They are not using this part.
That's right. That's right.
So if I get your talk correctly just now, what prevent dementia is try to stimulate our mental activity. Is that right? But for nowadays, most people prefer watching video, YouTube, TikTok, instead of reading a book. Is it harmful to us?
Can we ask other people first? Well, I get a cup of water. A cup of water somewhere. Is that mine? Then? I run a clinic for the NUS students. So as you said correctly, they spend their time in front of the laptop, handphone. But because you're staring at the light is very powerful. So they complain of tiredness, they complain of sleep problem. Because when you're looking at something close to you, you're using a muscle for near vision. So the muscle of near vision is the most active, the most tired sets of muscle of the whole body, because we're always looking. All right. So I tell them that you should, sometimes it's good to read a book, or sometimes after watching your handphone, you stop for a while, then look far away to the trees and all that. So your far vision muscles is now working now. All right. Then the near vision muscles will relax for a while. Can you remember that? Look far away for 5 minutes, drink a bit of water, then come back again. Right. Because you keep on staring down there, the blood is very, very powerful. Right? And the muscles get very tired. Right. And also, I suppose, a lot of people read using handphone. I thought a book, I belong to the old school. Right? I like to read a book and then flip through it and touch the book. Handphone, some people use Kindle and all that, but I still prefer book. Okay, all right. Give this lady
Just a general question, whether in all your studies, has there been any study about genes, the genetic profile of people with dementia? I don't know where the research is. The other question is educational level. Because sometimes we have friends who are, even academics, professors, sort of quite mentally active and alert people, and then they have dementia. So I think that's one of the things that actually has shocked us sometimes. Thank you.
Most of the tests we use to assess dementia is sometimes prejudice against those people with low education. So one to be very careful. So we have the scores will be lower, all right? Because they ask you to, for example, that there's a test called the mini mental state from Johns Hopkins. They ask you to spell the word world backwards. And so I was at the World Health. I said, in Singapore and Jurong, my elderly people can't even spell forward. You don't understand to spell backward. What do you mean? So okay, that question is out. Right? So you've got to be very careful, right? And certain things they got to, and so, but we still see a lot of doctors. I've seen professors with dementia. It runs in a family. I look after one who, not only him, I look after his 2 other sisters, 3 of them, all with dementia. The sisters are all very well qualified. One is a social worker, another a school teacher. The whole family, dementia. But then once again, we can do many things to stimulate the brain so that they live on to good quality of life and well taken care of in a family. Right? So it runs in a family. So there's a particular gene that seems to be affected in, especially a dementia called Alzheimer's disease. Dementia is a very generic term, and one of the most common one is Alzheimer's disease. It can also be due to you don't take enough of vitamin B6. Sometimes your thyroid hormone here is not functioning well. The hormone is not functioning, then you get down, you get also a dementia. Some people will drink too much, also will from dementia. But the commonest is Alzheimer's disease, and it's linked to a particular gene called ApoE4. But that one is only found in about less than 10% of people, and most of us also have a bit of it, about 3%. But it's often a combination of factors, besides the gene, but also the factors of food, mental stimulation, head injury. Right? Sometimes people are very well, they bang their head. That's why football players, boxers are more prone to dementia because of the constant beating of the brain. Right? Yes, right.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Prof. Basically, I have 2 questions.
You have 2 questions?
Yeah, I would like to tap on your expertise. You know that dementia is a very wide spectrum, but dementia is somehow the same but somewhat different. In the context is purely due, physiologically we know that there is a slowdown of certain biochemical in our brain in that context. Now, if that is the case, the current treatment is to delay the onsets, right? By acetylcholine inhibitor in general. Do you think that end of the day, no matter what we do, the end stage is somehow going to be the same? That's my first question. The second question may sound a little bit more optimistic. With advancements in NGS, next-gen sequencing, can we simultaneously able to sequence actionable genes, therefore leading to better treatment like antibodies, okay, protein-based, and then even gene repair in some way or another? Thank you.
Oh, a very profound question on a Thursday night. So the first question is, we all end up the same way. I think because there's no particular drug to stop the whole process, So what we're using now, the non-drug approach, firstly to stimulate the brain, to improve the quality of life. So it's not the end of everything. All right, I got a patient referred to me from the father, a lawyer. The lawyer sent a father to see a doctor, I think in Mount Elizabeth. Then the doctor said, your father has dementia. Then he said, what's the treatment? No treatment. So the lawyer very upset. What's the use of you giving my father a diagnosis, no treatment? Mr. Well, let him enjoy his life. So he said, oh, so his friend, come down to the clinic. So I saw him. I said, although there is no cure, there are many things you can do to improve the quality of life. All right. So the research we've done about the natural history, about 6 years, or 6 years mild, 3 years, very important. People can plan, right? If you have dementia, I'll tell you it takes about 12 years. But the 6 years, we can do something to improve on it. So it's always very difficult for us to tell a friend, a doctor, or a professor that you have a dementia. Yeah. So normally I'll tell them you have a memory problem. The good news is we can do many things for you. Then in the same way, when I was teaching the students for cancer, that we need giving people cancer medicine. Don't say, oh, this medicine you take the cancer medicine, you lose your hair, you lose your sexual drive. Who's going to take this kind of medicine? You say this medicine is good. Take this medicine, it will shrink the cancer. You can breathe better. But there are other side effects, and then that's what it is. Tell people the good news first. That's why today I started good news. Tell the bad news, all of you walked out already. It's all this bad news every day. Now bad news now, all right? So tell them the good news or what you can do. So we don't have the cure for you, but these are the things you can do to improve the quality of life. If the person live for about 10 years, can recognize the family, enjoy the food, and then isn't it wonderful for them? Okay, all right. Then the gene sequencing itself, unless you identify the gene, let's say it's Alzheimer's disease, and find the gene, which particular gene and which particular medication is helpful for them, then that would be helpful for them. Right? So the latest thing that's come down for intravenous, they haven't done the sequencing yet. They say it's helpful. I haven't seen all the results yet. But we have to be very careful about this. Sometimes the fly-by-night kind of studies, and then you find that it helps people, but the side effects are so bad. And now there's a lot of anger now in only Singapore, America, over the vaccines. After now, the vaccine was produced so fast that normally vaccine research takes a long time. Well, I've seen a patient after the vaccine, half the body paralyzed, and then another memory problem, in seniors, among seniors. So the people are very angry. One have a heart problem, admitted to NUH. So all this medicine must be tried out first before we give the people, because it could create more damage to them. Yeah? Okay.
Prof, one question for you here.
Oh, sure.
So, you have not touched on what is the most common type of dementia here in Singapore.
Okay, all right. So the most common one we've done from the data I have in NUH, about 40% are people with Alzheimer's disease. Then about 30% are those with vascular dementia after a stroke. After a severe stroke, that part of the brain blocked, the blood is blocked, there's no oxygen, finished, that part dies, all right? That's the vascular dementia. Then the other 30% is a mix, Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. And then a small slice of it are the uncommon, dementia we see. Right? So, but commonest is still Alzheimer's disease.
But on vascular dementia, can you just elaborate a little bit more on, because
Vascular
it is silent in that sense, right?
So the vascular dementia can be very silent because sometimes the blood pressure is too high. It bursts a small little capillaries in the brain. So that plain time, but you may not know it. You just keep on working. On the Sundays, you want your regular assessment, then you ask for a brain scan. Hey, there's some changes. No, all right. But sometimes it comes to a massive brain stroke. Then there's a massive block. Then this one is easier to recognize them. But a small little dot. So sometimes people complain of being a bit forgetful. Then you say, why am I so forgetful? Yesterday I remember things, now I can't. On and off. So those with Alzheimer's disease, the memory slides slowly down this way. Those people with a stroke, they have the stroke, they go down. Then they keep on for a period of time. Then after more little stroke again of the brain, then they go down again. So this like a step ladder kind of, isn't it? Remember? So you manage them well, they can maintain this for a long period of time. I look after a Malay school teacher, stroke dementia. After the stroke, he kept on for a long period of time, for about 20 years, all right? But others, you don't look after, you go down again. Then you keep here for a while, the stroke, you go down again, right? The mental state does go down. Right? So those take exam would be a step ladder deterioration, typical of the vascular dementia.
Hi, Professor. I have one question to ask. Is it true that by exercising the tongue can activate the brain and prevent dementia?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Because I know some friends of mine from traditional Chinese medicine said that exercise the tongue is because the tongue is linked to a part of the brain, more the motor part of the brain. So it helps you also to concentrate, exercise going on. By itself, it doesn't sort of prevent dementia. By itself, it helps you to be more aware, and you stimulate certain part of the nerves. The fact is more motor, but dementia is more cognitive, memory. So different part of the brain. You put your finger here and here, right? Then here and here. You hit a part of the brain about this size of your thumb. It's called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a Greek word for seahorse. So you remember hippopotamus? So hippocampus, it's a seahorse. It's exactly like a seahorse. So when I was a postgrad student in Oxford, we were asked to dissect the brain. Then look inside there, that's the hippocampus. That is where all your memory is stored. All right, all the memory, the days you were in school, Tanjong Katong School, now everyone wants to claim that they are Tanjong Katong Secondary School. I thought Tanjong Katong Girls' School is a popular one. Someone said, no, Tanjong Katong Secondary School, because Mr. Lawrence Wong is from that school. All right. So everybody will say they are good. No one from Batu Pahat? No one. So that's where all the memory are stored down there, okay? And surrounding that brain is a part of the brain called the limbic system. So that's why we use music reminiscence. We play a song, the Tanjong Katong. People smile because they learn the song in their secondary schools, isn't it? When you're very happy, you're carefree. Now you're all working, a lot of stress. So it is reminiscence of your younger days. The memory is stored to that part of the brain, and then you think about it, you feel happy about it. Right? So in the Jurong study, whenever we play the song by Teresa Ting, the moon represents my heart. Everybody will enjoy because it reminds them of their youth when they were so happy in school, when carefree days, but now they're all working in the factory, so upset with certain things. So memories, but be careful, sometimes memories also bring out sad thoughts. So I remember once one of the old people in Jurong showed them some slides about going to Japan, and then showed them, Hiroshima. Wow, one of the old people in the group was very sad and even very angry. His father was killed by the Japanese. I'm so angry, very tearful. So reminiscence and sometimes create sad feelings. But because of the reminiscence, we now started the reminiscence therapy. And the reminiscence therapy was because of that. I mentioned about a doctor and the two sisters, all dementia. He is one of our very well-known surgeons, and he lives somewhere near Raffles Girls' School. And the wife told me that when I was first diagnosed with dementia, wow, all the surgeons, wow, this is very sad. Our famous surgeon has this problem. So they will visit the house, After 3 months, everyone stopped, He said, okay, enough. Then it's typical of all of us. We hear someone has cancer, we'll visit him or her. After a few months, okay, enough. So this happened, and the wife became very lonely. But one day, he became very restless also. So the wife rang me that if you are passing Raffles Girls' School, can you drop in to see me, see my husband? So at that time, my daughter was studying Raffles Girls' School, so I picked her up and then I went to see him. But when I entered the house, he was very quiet. But on the phone, the wife told me, oh, he's very restless. And then he was lying down on the sofa, and the background was the music of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. You ever heard of Moonlight Sonata, anyone of you? Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad, right. Then I asked him, how come you're so quiet? He's enjoying the Moonlight Sonata. Because it reminds me of London in 1953, when he passed his exam for the Royal College of Surgeons, a very difficult exam. He said, I was so happy, the first Singaporean, I was so happy, and I went to buy a ticket. He likes music, to the Whitmore Hall in London, and the concert was the Moonlight Sonata. So sound itself hit him to the 60, and he think about the tune, and he calms down. So from that incident itself, there's chance we started off the music reminiscence therapy. We used many people in the world. Once again, we use brain scan.
Hi, Prof.
Yep.
My group would like to clarify if dementia is hereditary, because we research and they say that it's one of the myths. It's false, and dementia occurs due to combination of genetic and environmental factors that can increase or decrease a person's dementia risk.
So it's both genetic, but also environmental factors now. So for Alzheimer's disease, it's more genetics, but it doesn't mean that it's not inherited as a dominant gene. So it doesn't mean that your father have it, you must have it. All right. In contrast to some illness like the one called Huntington's chorea, if you have it, our children have it, but that's not in Alzheimer's disease. They're called what they call recessive genes. Right? So be careful. Very important to know that. I have a patient was sent to me from KL, accompanied by, I think Heok may have heard that before, and accompanied by the daughter was a lawyer. So the lawyer is very careful. He said, and the daughter wanted a second opinion. So I examined the mother, all the tests, and I told her, yes, in the news, the KL people are right. Doesn't mean that must be Singapore. The KL professors are also clever. They diagnosed correctly. Then, wow, she was not only sad, she was angry with the mother. Said, oh, my mother is going to give me, I'm going to have dementia. So in my clinic, she was very angry. So I said, you have forgotten. Your mother also gives the good genes for intelligence. You're a lawyer. And also she was quite a charming lawyer, quite charming looking. You forget about all this thing. But doesn't mean that the mother has got it. That means you will get it. Oh, then so. Oh, then she could, oh, right, I didn't know that one thing. I told her many people I know in medical school, my colleagues and all that. His father had dementia, he didn't have dementia. Right, to reassure them that people this fear, they read the social media, social tell a lot of things, you will have fear. So be careful, don't look at the handphone all the time. They give, So sometimes you must also be blessed. I'm sure I've got some gene, not very good genes for my mother. My mother has cancer. Doesn't mean that, but also she told me the medicine. I think that's correct. The medicine is the best thing. And they teach us about moral life, and they give you the moral compass in life, teach you the values in life. These are things you remember. All of you come here to the Buddhist center, the values. These are important things. Right? You always forget that. Right?
Okay, I have 3 more questions.
3 more questions.
By how much are we able to increase the lifespan of dementia with the interventions?
But if intervention, I mentioned earlier on, isn't it? Once again, it varies. So for this particular doctor, most patients we can say is about 12 years. If I were to work in England, I'll tell them it's about 5 years because it's a Cambridge study, the big study in Cambridge. Here in Singapore, people know. In fact, the graph you show is often used in the court here, you know. Sometimes the judge will say, how do I know? Then the judge will say, can we have your data? The judge will want a particular paper published so we know how many years. If you have dementia, tell them, don't worry, about 10, 12 years. If you have dementia or 80 years old, I tell them you must try and be over 93. They say, 193? Then you can tell Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, I'm stronger than you. Lee Kuan Yew is 92 then. That's right. So so you can prolong it for that particular doctor, it went on for 19 years. It's not too bad, isn't it? When he passed on, it's about 80, 87, 88, right? All right. So at least we know. We don't have, we cannot give a particular prognosis and say this is for so long and all that. Almost impossible. Sometimes doctors say, well, you have cancer, you have 6 months to live. The person will live to 7 months and laugh at the doctor, you know. So you remember, don't try to play the role of a God and say, I predict that you will. So it's always wrong. Yeah? Okay, question number 3.
As a researcher, I would like to know what are the current trends and new dementia research right now.
Right. Where your researcher where, by the way?
In your school.
Yong Lulin School, is it? In which department? Tell me
I'm from nursing.
Oh, nursing. All right, all right. The nursing good are very good in the young nurses. They are very well trained, and some nurses, I told them we can actually do medicine. Yeah? Their scores are very, very good. So, so you're asking what are new trends in research? Is it? Well, for the nursing side, we try and do something on improving the care, you know. So how are we going to live? One of the problems they encounter the whole country is what happens when someone grows old, you know? Who's going to look after them? Last month, I had a professor who was walking, somehow along the corridors, NUH, then they'll stop me. I knew there was going to be a problem. He said, by the way, can I have coffee with you? So I have coffee with him. He said, my wife has cancer. I said, okay, I'm sorry to hear about that. And he said, well, the problem I'm encountering is that nobody at home. You know? I said, I thought you have 2 wonderful sons. Oh, one is in California, the other one in Melbourne. So they only eat, what we call a digital family now. They have a laptop, then they eat together. So the question is, what will happen? How can you age in place? If you want to stay in your favorite place in Holland Road or Amugio, how can the family help? You know, right? So you say, oh, the family is going to move. Then can the neighbors and how can the group help out? That's why the rainforest study is important because people begin to care for one another, right? So we know that some of the group of widows or widowers live alone, and some friends will help them. I work in the hospital. I'll tell them, I'm going to the hospital today. Do you need any medicine for certain thing? I'll go and get it for you. So we help them out here. All right. And one other friend just told me, oh, the helper is going away. He's living alone. So don't worry. We'll pick you up for lunch if you want to. So people need to care for one another. So the study we're going to do with the nursing school in terms of volunteerism with Professor Shifali. You know, how do you be a volunteer? You know, and I hope even this center there'll be someone interested to do volunteerism, help your neighbors. We hope this tradition will go on. In the past, when people live in a kampong, they care for one another. Next door, help you out. And if your father passed away, then you're younger, you help other people. There's what they call, Malay word is gotong royong. Remember? Yeah? You care, but now people live in their own flat. They don't know the neighbors. You know, there's one patient asked him, "Do you know who's the neighbor?" I don't know. You've been living together for the last 10 years. They don't know the neighbors. So we try and do something how we can help each other out. You know, especially in Singapore. One of the ways we can find out is when you help people out, what happened to your brain? Isn't it interesting? Right. Just like when we do mindfulness, they say the sense of care, isn't it? The sense of altruism come about. But what actually happened? So as a scientist, we can find out what actually the the neuroscience of it. What happened to the brain? Anyone guess? Anyone can guess? What kind of chemical is secreted in the brain when you do something wonderful?
Adrenaline.
Endorphins? No, endorphin is for mood, for depression. When you run exercise, endorphin comes up. Yeah? Dopamine, not there. Huh? Serotonin is for mood. Right?
Adrenaline.
Oh, let me get it. Now, most of women, before you deliver the baby, the doctors will give you a jab called oxytocin. Oxytocin is good for the brain because it helps the brain cells, and it's also good for the heart. So there's some early signs, some research. So we're trying to study whether if people volunteer, will there be a change of chemical in the brain, and they feel better, the heart, then they feel way rewarded now. I'm not saying that Singaporeans, it has to be transactional, I help you so that the oxytocin will come out, Then it's bad. But it must be genuine. That's why the mindfulness part is very important. The mindfulness part of it, we hope we're doing the study on that part of it. If you want to do a study, let us know. You come to the Mind Science Center, Then Professor Shifali, with a lot of studies done. So we also know that in many families, I look after one engineering student. I asked him, what does your father do? He said, my father is an engineer. Where does he work? I don't know. What does the mother do? My mother is an accountant. Where does she work? I don't know. So don't you eat together to know? Since the pandemic, when we buy a food, I go to my room and eat. I eat alone. Everyone's alone. Don't you sit down and eat and then talk to each other? Nobody. So there's still more bonding down there. So we're trying to ask people that maybe a simple study we did with Professor Wilson Tam down there is to ask the young people to talk to the grandparents. Tell me the story of your life. Yes, people think Singapore down aircon. In the past, there's no air conditioning. When I first came to work here, the clinics were all fan only, fan. And I was warm and sweating and all that, And the fellows across that side, the char kway teow, you can smell the char kway teow. But now it's so wonderful, air conditioned, all this. People don't understand it. So they understand that parents, they say, oh, my father went through a difficult time. They build up the empathy and also a sense of care, concern. Yeah? Oh, they don't realize the mother went through a difficult time, 9 months, in the womb, and the delivery is so painful, They don't understand that, So they care for one another, they love one another. This is part of it. Do. Yeah? Good study. Yeah? There are many more studies you want to sit the whole night, but I think you move on to somebody.
I think the last question is just...
nursing field are very monopolizing.
I want to know, as a future nurse, what can I do better for my dementia patients in acute hospitals?
Acute hospital, yeah. One of the problems we encounter is that, I'm sure all of you in the hospital, that every time the doctors will come with a trolley, they'll say, that's bed 35, dementia. I say, hey, hold on, bed 35 is a person, But it's like that, walk around. I go walk around with my young doctors. Bed 36, schizophrenia. That one, alcoholic, He's got a name and he's a person, And when I was in 1999, I was asked to be the CEO of IMH. The bed has no name, Just a date, and you go to sleep. So I tell them, don't you put on the name, the person, Tan Akau, whatever it is, it's got a name, right? Isn't there since it's a long stay ward, some type of long stay ward, isn't there a picture of the family? That's his part, his area, isn't it? There's no picture, The family, nothing. Open up a drawer, nothing in the drawer. Doesn't he keep his photograph of his family? The nursery, put down there, they throw it away. What do you mean throw it away? Put it back again. So you must give person, it must be more personalized treatment. Give someone a good morning, Mrs. Lim, give them the care. Right? So I think that acute hospital especially, people are just treat you as a digit down there, right? And you find that, do you all feel that I'm in hospital the day we had anyone saw the webinar we called Poetry and the Unquiet Mind? Oh, no impact. We got a wonderful professor from England to talk about how poetry can help us understand our own feelings, And there was one poet down there called Rosemary Koo. Said, I recently went to one hospital. I got a fracture. Why was the way they treat us? And my goodness. I think because sometimes we are busy as a doctor. The excuse that we're always busy, therefore we rush and all that. Couldn't they treat us like a person? Just giving us food and all that. My cousin was admitted NUH, and then I went to see him, and I said, my goodness, he said the food is terrible. So I tasted, yeah, it's bad. So I asked the consultant to come and say, hey, how come it's terrible food for this person? Well, cancer, he has only about 3 or 4 more weeks to live, Then he said, yeah, it's so bad, So he said, so the nurse said, anyway, decided about the doctor. The doctor says low salt, that means low salt. So call in the chef came in. So not my fault, it's a consultant decides. Low salt means low salt. I said, the person has 3 weeks to live, why care about low salt? You fellas have no idea. So I normally say, Naki, I'll go down and buy for you your favorite char siu pao, I'll go buy char siu pao for you. All right. He has 3 more weeks to live, you worry about it, low salt diet. This is nonsense. So I think that you care for people in a way that's a nurse. There are lots of things we can do. Sometimes maybe we're in a hurry, but we realize that this person is actually this patient is actually a person. Yeah? Combative. Wow. Anyone of you very combative when you go to hospital? Yeah. I think sometimes people are very impatient. I was telling Geok Hua that my daughter used to be the senior consultant at KK in emergency medicine. During the pandemic, one night he rang me at 12 o'clock and said, Dad, I'm going to give up this job. I said, why? The fellows outside are shouting and all of us are screaming at us. Everybody wants their children to be seen first. 100 patients waiting at midnight, at KK hospital. The man came, I want my son to be seen first. I want to admit him because they're afraid of COVID. And they're shouting at all of them, all shouting obscenities. So you see that, occupational risk that we're going through. And someone asked me, anyone beat you up? I work in psychiatry the last 45 years. No one beat me up. Maybe I'm a bit stronger than other people. So in fact, one medical student, a lady, before she went, a week before she went, in a tutorial, she looked a bit down. So I asked her, hey, what happened? You look a bit sad, Well, actually, I'm not that sad. My mother is more sad. So what do you mean? Because next week I'm going to IMH. And she's afraid of the posting to IMH. So I said, you go and tell your mother there is more violence outside of IMH than inside. People outside are violent. IMH patients are so well sedated, they're not violent anymore. So we got to, yeah. So there's some patients who are very combative. So whenever you be hospitalized or go up polyclinic, be a bit more appreciative also. And you meet her, thank them for all these things. Small little thing, like I tell my staff, sometimes don't forget to thank the cleaners, to them, the cleaners. By the way, I was telling Geok Hua that I'm finishing a book called The Hospital Porter. Because often books are written by the doctor down and doctor this way. What about the view from the porter up, how he sees the world? People can't be bothered, So now even the pandemic, now they say pandemic, you helping pandemic, you're given a medal. But how many medals given to the porters? They are given to the CEOs. I said the CEO stayed in his room all the time when they give the CEO. And it's given the CEO, isn't it? NUH. I said, you be ashamed of yourself. I told them, these fellas are ground zero, they are the frontliners, reward them. But my daughter, don't reward them. The nurses, the pay is so low. So give them money, rather than give medal. What do you give medal? They sell the medal away. That's what somebody did, they sell the medal away. Okay, someone in the back. Yes, the lady. Tell us who you are. You seem to know quite a lot of things. Huh? Are you in a health scene also? I see Lillian there. Is that Lillian there? Yes. I recognize you from afar.
I have been studying mindfulness, and I went into mindfulness because I have a special needs son, so I needed to know how to help my son, which is drug-free. And I teach mindfulness to special needs as well as to caregivers. So I went to US and UK and I did a lot of programs covering from children 3 years old up to adults, so that I can cover the spectrum for special needs. So that's why I do a lot of, I read a lot of studies because I need to know how to help my son and those like him. It needs to be about beyond faith. And therefore, I read a lot of those studies. When I get into the program and become a qualified teacher, not because I want to be a teacher, because they have access to studies that confirms that mindfulness actually works. So now I actually, last year in 2023, I went back to Stanford. I did a program and I have do a program to help caregivers of special needs. It's about nurturing resilience with compassion. Because from mindfulness, I went on to study compassion. Because a lot of the stuff you talked about, it's really about, for me, is compassion. Because mindfulness is about, first, I need people to pause and to be aware. And it's only when you are aware, then you can make a change. And that applies not only to normal folks, but also to those in the special need folks as well. So, so that's a bit about myself. So that's why when you talk about research, I always nod my head because I read a lot of those research to make sure when I share something, I know what am I talking about. Because I'm not a doctor. I came from the corporate world, so it's very different for me. And I really, so that's why I continue to study, and every year I go back to US, UK, not because I want to follow the Americans, but because over there, they look at mindfulness not with a religion perspective, and they do studies, whereas over here, I'm so glad. It's the first time I heard that it's being done in Singapore, and I wish I knew this long ago, because then maybe I can connect with folks who have got and make the journey so much easier. So my question is really, just now you mentioned that you'll talk a bit more about mindfulness practice. So I look up, I just straight away Googled and I talk about the HWell program because I have not heard of it. And I realized it's only for those above 65 years old. So therefore, for those of us who not yet reached there, would you want to share a bit more about the mindfulness practice? In terms like, how long do we practice each day? Because what I do now with my special needs son, minimum we do 10 minutes, and we do 20 minutes each day, and we do different practices that get incorporated into our normal daily life. Because you say you need a practice, people in Singapore are too busy. They say, you got another activity to add to my already busy schedule. So I figure out how we can incorporate. So I'm very curious, what practices were you talking about in your study, and what would you recommend for the rest of us to do?
Sure, all right, thank you. Long question. Huh? Yeah, like you said, a lot of things that we do, I'm not a marketeer. I'm not very good. I think Kyung Wee is a better marketeer than me, the man sitting beside Lillian. And so a lot of things we do, but the paper we published in a World's Journal was taken up by the American newspaper. In fact, one paper was the New York Times also, that was about curry. That curry is good for the brain. It's the New York Times. But we should, as you say, correct, the Americans are very clever at marketing. A little thing, they'll market or tell everybody, CNN or interview. Our CNN not too interested, they want something else, that thing. So I think, so slowly things are building up. We published a lot of research papers, also books to read, okay? And then about which one is helpful, I'm more a researcher than just a practitioner. Practitioner, people like Heok are very good. Some people here are very good, but I know that when we first did it, when Mr. Wee Sinto started off with medical students, half an hour is too long for them. Right. So I bargained with my doctors, how about 10 minutes? All right, so during the pandemic, some doctors live at Punggol. The trip from Punggol to NUH is 1 hour by train. So I told them, when you go in the train station, the train, sit down there, you can do it for 1 hour. Instead of before, they'll tell me they're so angry, people to put their mask on, gonna get angry with people to get mindfulness. There was a chap who came from the US, a chap called Wallace, what his name, Wallace is that? Alan Wallace. He said you can spice up your life, spice it, you see the word spice, season your life, maybe when you're queuing up in the bus, queuing up for a train station or in the bus or for your food, you can do it for a few minutes. That's how I tell people the same way. Doesn't mean you must go to a proper room and sit down, do it. You can do it away. But I think for children, it's a very good way. But a lot of children now a bit restless. I'm always reluctant to give people a diagnosis of attention deficit, ADHD. Because straight away they feel, okay, ADHD means I must give you a drug, boy, goodness. When I was trained in England, in Oxford, I was trained as a child psychiatrist. In England, they don't want to give a drug, teach you different methods of relaxation. So I thought mindfulness is a good way, teach them to keep down, but when I went to work in America, in Harvard, wow, straight away give you a drug. I say, hey, hold on, the brain is still growing, you want to be careful, to put on this drug. So mindfulness is a good technique, but be careful. Now mindfulness is overprescribed. People say anything, mindfulness, anything. Oh, even appeared in the New York Times, the editorial, that is mindfulness overprescribed. Yes. I think we want to be careful. Once we go overboard, then the thing will be used. Use it the closest way for yourself, wonderful. But not to. One patient was given with schizophrenia, was given mindfulness meditation. He flared up, so they brought him to see me. I told the so-called counselor, please don't do that again. Right? You create more harm. But out of goodness, maybe I just try mindfulness, but without knowing the consequence of it. People were psychotic and very careful.
Just now about the dementia, it was mentioned that high blood pressure, diabetic, or maybe stroke can lead to dementia.
Correct. Yes, correct. That's correct. It's a fact that diabetes, hypertension, and stroke can lead on to dementia. Right? But if you have hypertension, diabetes are well controlled, then you don't have to worry. Right? I've got people very frightened by this, so I tell them, don't worry when they are well controlled. The next question about age. Yes, when we first published a paper in the big journal in England called The Lancet, the editor told me, you do this dementia prevention, age of 60 is too late. You should start early, and I agree with him. You must agree, editor, so they'll publish for you. So I agree with you. Next time, so now we've got a group now. One of our team members looking after youth, from youth onwards, maybe earlier on, 30s, 40s, then starting from there. Besides dementia, maybe in terms of cigarette smoking, alcohol, various things, the lifestyle, and then we track them up this way to better. So studies are what I call longitudinal study, from one point move on, better than just a cross-sectional. Yeah. But it's a long process, and you've got to wait for another 30, 40 years, and then you got to hire people to do it. The cost is very, very high.
Testing. May I?
So many questions. It's more than my medical student.
Do you mind?
Medical student, very easy. No question. Okay, close. Go ahead.
That's why we are not medical students. I mean, just curious, because like mindfulness is such a common term right now. I'm just wondering, from a scientist, how do you define mindfulness?
All right, all right. Can I say that we will postpone it until the book written by Hoa here, the book explained to you, all right, everything about mindfulness.
Yeah.
I'm not the expert in that, I'm going to tell you that. I do the research that I learned from the husband, but the book will explain to you. So wait for a while, in a year's time.
Because we have a Buddhist definition for mindfulness.
Buddhist,
so I'm just wondering, I'm just wondering, what from the scientist's point of view, what is a definition for mindfulness? Yeah.
Buddhist, I think.
The research done by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn on MBSR is actually taken straight from the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the fourth foundation of mindfulness, but he has given it more a modern twist to a modern framework to the definition. So it is always mindfulness is the awareness to pay attention to something that is happening in the present, moment to moment, without judgment.
Okay, thanks.
And if you look at the sutta, then the sutta covers all of this, but the Buddha never said it in exactly this way.
Yeah.
But John Kabat-Zinn has framed it such. So that is usually the definition given, quotation by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn.
Thank you very much.
So the key word is awareness, present, and the last one is moment. Yeah.
Then,
right.
Then the next question is like, during this, scientific research, right? All the participants actually come together and do the mindfulness practice, right? Do they do the mindfulness practice at home?
So they're supposed to do at home now, supposed to do
Yeah.
at home.
The reason why I'm asking this question is how much of this improvement has got to do with the mindfulness practice itself, or because of the fellowship?
Okay, so this is a question often they ask to us, because of togetherness or because of the practice. No, all right. So that's why we combine it. You have a controlled also fellowship, the learning together as a way to see how they go about. So then the scientists often ask us in a big conference, what is it about the mindfulness that led on to the brain changes? So we from our point of view, we think it decreases inflammation. The reason why the blood vessel began to close in, because the blood vessels, the surface of the blood vessel began to become inflamed, and therefore what mindfulness does is to decrease the inflammation. Because we know that before inflammation comes about, there must be secretion of some chemicals or anti-inflammatory chemicals, and so that's why we measure all this before and after. So I think sometime in May we're having a big webinar. I hope you tune on to it. It's called Dementia Asia. And we have somebody who worked with us who's now gone to America to explain about all this, the molecular changes, the inflammation changes from mindfulness. All right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
My question is, nowadays we heard about this term called brain fog, some symptom of long COVID also. Is that what causes it, and is that a prelude to dementias, in any way linked to dementia or anything?
So the term brain fog is only a colloquial term. All right, it's not a scientific term. It means that I'm a bit confused, that's the brain fog. So this term was used in the court, So the judge asked me, what is brain fog? I say, George, it's a colloquial term. It's not a scientific term, but it's used by a doctor. It's a patient has brain fog. Therefore, he's having dementia. It's not right, isn't it? Yeah. So I said it's got to be more scientific in the way we explain about the illness. So it's a colloquial term used by people. You see someone a bit confused, they all have brain fog. All right, that's like a term like burnt out. It's just a colloquial term.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Just a follow-up, sir.
One more question.
Yes, just now talking about stroke, high blood pressure, and diabetic. Let's say the person don't have stroke, don't have high blood pressure, and don't have diabetic. That means he have lesser chance of being dementia.
Right. The risk is lower. So firstly, age is a risk factor. The older you grow. So from our research, we know that if you are 65 and above, the chances are only about 5%. But across 80, the chances are about 20%. okay? And we know that hypertension, diabetes, head injury are more prone, okay? And certain kind of diet, you're also more prone. You know, a low of thyroxine, you're more prone also, okay? And family history itself.
Okay, thank you very much. So, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Professor. I think we've all been intrigued and really mesmerized by what you have shared with us tonight. I didn't expect the turnout to be so good and dragged along to 9:30 already. So really, I think we'll have to put an end to this talk tonight. So on behalf of Bita Buddhist Center, all the members here, please, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your wonderful sharing with us about old age and dementia. So I'd like now to request our resident teacher, Ken Rubishe, present a token of appreciation to you, for your kindness in coming here tonight. Please. Thank you. So thank you very much, Prof. Yeah. Thank you.